there aren't any transactions happening on it.
No, I can set a script which will send a transaction like every minute or several transactions.
Yeah, I think it's
every
worth
second.
just doing something like that, just so that it's kind of.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to understand because I can reconfigure our secure demo TK network to run on it, but it will be not so stable as right now.
No, I mean it will, but that demo TK is our development network, isn't it?
Yeah, demo TK, it's where everything is running on the same virtual machine, and 4 nodes for cluster running on the same machine. And what I'm running right now for module host, it's a separate server on every separate quorum node on every virtual machine.
Yeah.
This is what I installed for them.
No, I think it's fine.
Yeah, okay. I need only give some slow transaction output for them, like maybe 10 or 5 transactions.
Yeah, I think, just so that we can say it's up and running, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So once you've done that, Max, can you do me a favor? Just type me up a quick email saying what you've done, the transaction throughput, and the results, and that'll be fine. It doesn't just like a 1-paragraph summary.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother with the transaction throughput because I don't think it'll be meaningful.
No,
okay.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Okay, then I will send this, and I think after call or during the call, I configure transaction center script for transactions.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to do, which is having got that network up, to do some performance testing on it, and then once we've done that, we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, great. So I think that we can start. Sorry, just we've been a little late. So as we can see it now, here we gather together in order to have some sort of sprint planning, to review the issues that we have together, and I think just to run through them. In my previous call, Maxim asked us not to stay for too long here. So my main aim is to complete all the necessary sprint planning here in 1 hour or maybe 1.5 hours. I think it will be enough for us, and we'll try to to be more focused, right? So can you see my screen, by the way?
I can. Hold on. Yep.
Cool. So Ian, you have told me that you have run through the issues already in the backlog.
Yeah. So the problem number 1.
Let's start from the problem number 1. Okay.
Wow. So we might switch the projects, right? Which is the big announcement. So I am also sharing my screen, although it seems to be going mental. What we've done? That's because I'm doing. Hold on. I'll do that. So I've got my screen up as well. So I think everyone on the call, perhaps less so Jonathan and almost certainly less so Vlad, will be aware that we've got multiple projects on the go, right, at any one moment in time. Just to give you a flavour, we've probably got in the region of about 5 or 6 different projects going on at the moment. Okay? And people like Max get caught in the crossfire of most of them. Now, because of that, we label them. So we try and give labels to everything that we do. And those labels tend to start off with some Esperanto language, because Mark and I just like Esperanto because it's inoffensive. A language that doesn't belong to anyone is therefore acceptable to everyone. So that's why everything starts Mia, for example. So Mia Idento, Mia Attesto, Mia Pago, etc. Anyway, so the identity project, Mia Identity, is something that's probably really at the core of most of the projects that we're working on. And we do intend to develop it out as a variety of different products in and of itself over time. And certainly the stuff that Jonathan's been doing so far has been with a view towards that. And obviously since Vlad has joined, starting to build an app around that is definitely part of the strategy. However, something's fallen effectively on our laps recently that I think Mark and I would like to focus on for two reasons. One is there's a far more definite business use case that's more tangible versus the pure mere Idento story. And secondly, because it's more tangible and more discrete, I think we can come up with a more specific series of tasks, basically, and projects in order to get to where we want to get to. Now, we called this project Mere Paygo, okay? Now, which is my payment. In the UK, just by way of background, there is a change in the legislation.
What? Yeah, in the EU actually is probably.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so in the EU, there's a sweeping piece of legislation called the Payment Services Directive 2. It should be coming into force this year. It will be part of European law. When exactly everyone starts to abide by it is another thing, but it should be this year. In advance of that, the UK has actually gone ahead and implemented something else, basically, which is called open banking, which is linked to PSD2. Now, that is going live in January, this month, for about 9 of the UK banks. Now, what that piece of legislation does is basically say, if you are a bank, if you get approached by a specific company that's been regulated for a particular thing to do with payments, you have to give them access to your APIs that you've just designed, okay? And in simple terms, what that means is that if I've got an account with, say, Barclays in the UK, and I choose to use an app on my phone that's been designed, built, and maintained by a company that's appropriately regulated, then that application on my phone is allowed to access my bank account, both for information and for execution. And what I mean by execution is I, through the app, can instruct it to debit my account. Okay? You just sort of virtually nod if you're following this so far, which could be a cough or a yes.
Yes, it makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Now, for the banks, this is a big deal, as in it's a major threat. Because same with Visa, actually. Any payment network at the moment that exists is potentially under threat now, because if you're a regulated business and therefore you are by law allowed to all of the bank's customers' account details and initiate payments, then you've got a very interesting potential business model there. In simple terms, there's a lot of things that Mark and I want to do with this, but we're thinking about setting up a regulated business in the UK specifically to get that regulation, and thereafter think about it in the context of retail payments. So instead of having a user pay at the local store with their Visa card, they just get out their phone and a payment would be initiated, and I'll explain what that means. And then probably recorded on some sort of blockchain, both in terms of receipt, well, actually mostly in terms of receipt, but also for confirmation, which might help for disputes and refunds and stuff like that in the future. Okay. Now, there will be, as part of this project, an identity component to it for sure, which really sits in the Idento world. Okay. When those specific tasks come up, I think we just need to talk about them and be clear about them. Okay, and I can give you a very simple example. I don't think this is what we're going to focus on in the near term, but I might go into the local shop and buy something as a consumer, as me, or I might go into the local shop and buy something as an employee for a company. Well, in order to buy it for the company, I need to be identified with that company, which is more mere idento. Yeah. Hopefully that's all making sense. Anyway.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So what we've done here, and I'll start talking about the screen if everyone's got it up, is Mark and I have quickly whipped up some tasks that we think are relevant into a near-term sprint and a backlog. Okay. Now there's not a lot, and we need to pad this out in time. Some of these may get bigger as well, as in some of the tasks might split down into multiple tasks. But this is what I think we've got, and that's what I want to walk through. And so I'll propose that we literally just take these one by one and then just chat about them.
Yeah, I think we probably also then need to go through the mere idento ones.
Do you want to go through that or not?
Well, yeah, because they're both. I mean, the reason that we got here was the issue we've got with the mere idento backlog is it's fairly arbitrarily what's the word, prioritized.
Yeah.
Now there are things here that will need bits of mere idento to be delivered.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Basically, and then we need to schedule those inside mere idento.
As for me, I have a question about also our strategy, because through projects I understand just the idea of why we separate them, but I think that here and for now we just gather together in order to help the guys understand what exactly should we do in the nearest 2 weeks.
Yep.
So I'm not sure. Maybe we should use. Can we use only one project, or we just should use both of them, or we can use only Mia Page?
I don't personally see any harm, Mark, and just throw. If there's a mere idento task put in here, we can just put it in here from a management point of view.
Yeah, as long as we're clear about the fact that they're separate.
Yeah.
So what I don't want to do is start shuffling the tasks that we've got in mere idento across to here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So I think the thing there is, what we're doing is working on 2 applications now.
Yeah.
Mere Pago and mere idento.
Yeah.
And
yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
And we won't get very far with mere Pago before we need an identity. Like, I don't think we'll get beyond the home screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially. So I think in practice, there isn't that much mere Pago work, because the other things we've got in here require blockchain work, which I don't think we're going to schedule at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking about review Open Bank API. Not sure that's a.
Yeah.
We put that into the sprint. Design receipt chain.
Well, I think we need to start thinking about it. Although, yes, for Max, it's probably not going to happen actually.
Yeah, because he's not available. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the same for the design.
Yeah.
So actually, we've got.
Yeah, maybe it is mostly mere idento.
You know, well, because to basically get to a mere Pago consumer app workflow, we need an identity. First thing you need to do is identify yourself to it, and for that, you're going to need to attach a mere idento persona.
Yeah. Yeah, but
as soon as we make that statement, we don't have any of the mere idento work done. Yeah,
but so that's fine. But also, so in terms of a user application, Mark, I'm making the assumption that there's what we'll end up with for mere Pago is one application, and the user doesn't know what's going on, right? So I just want to make that clear. We're not talking about 2 applications that the user needs to download on their mobile.
I don't necessarily agree with that. To start off with, that's what I'm concerned about, is that we take that approach. to start off with, because then we'll find that Mira Idento is completely inside Mira Pago.
Yeah, I'm just more worried about from a user point of view. If you've got
but
users will find it very confusing if they have to download two completely different apps to make a payment.
Yeah, but that's deployment. Let's get development done first.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right, because you're jumping to the deployment thing for something that we've got a completely fresh application for. I'm more concerned. I mean, I think we should start off by saying, yes, they are going to need to do that.
Yeah.
We may not release it like that, but building it like that is what we need to do, because I strongly suspect what we'll end up with is a Mira Idento SDK inside Mira Pago.
Yeah, fine. Okay, yeah.
But we don't have an SDK at the moment, so we need to develop them as separate apps.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, so for this one then, Mark, for Mira Pago, I still think I need to spend some time with Vlad, basically.
Yeah.
And maybe Jonathan as well, just walking through what something might look like, just so that they've got some idea in their head of where we're going, basically.
Yep.
So I'll just arrange that. Do we want to start thinking about the Starling Bank, because it's an interesting one as in we can start doing stuff around it, basically, today.
Yes.
You know, just thinking. So I think that's possibly one that we could work on. And I don't know who's the best person to do it. I mean, I've arbitrarily just put Jonathan's name against it, but I don't know.
So how do you think, guys, what strategy can we choose for this own meeting? So we're discussing many stuff. By the way, I'm recording this session in order for us not to forget, so I will send you a link. But I still think that we can. So how do you think, can we focus today on sprint planning and issue dating?
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm imagining this is part of a little sprint, but as you can see, it's whittled down to 2 tasks currently, because this one's
because and I think we should try and do the NXP stuff, but yeah, that's
Gennady.
That's Gennady, right? Yeah.
So I think for Mira Pago, all we're going to do for the next sprint is basically have a look at the Starling API and start thinking about what an application for Mira Pago might look like, basically.
Yeah, but I think what we should also be doing is adding a persona as well. Yeah. It's another task.
What added Mira Idento?
Yeah, well, so it may be the task in here is log in with Mira Idento persona.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Right, and then in order to do that, we need to make sure that we've got you can't do that at the moment, I don't think. Because then in Mira Idento, you've got create Mira Idento persona.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets us into the whole Mira Idento conversation that we had last time we spoke.
Yeah.
So basically, Ian, if you want mind, I can, just take over this one stuff, or you want to proceed by yourself? I mean, just like.
So what's the question?
I mean, the question is, do you want to proceed by yourself with creation of tickets and planning and overviewing, or I can take over it?
Well, I'm hoping not to create too many more, because we haven't yet gone to Mira Idento, and I think probably we will, as Mark said.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, but I think it probably makes sense, Vitaly, if you drive, because.
Yeah, but are we going to flip to Mira Idento now? Because Mira Idento, I think we need to go through and see what's done before we build up too many here. I think we need to see what we're going to do or not do in Mira Idento.
Yeah, so I agree. This is a reasonable first sprint for Mira Pago.
Yeah, okay. Right, so Vitaly, I'll let you hand over, and you can go into the Mira Idento project.
Yeah, sure. Let me just share my screen. Let me just make sure that I can share my screen. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Cool. So, yes, I have find Mira Pago. So, shall we start with Mira Idento or Mira Pago?
Mira Idento. Yeah.
Cool. By the way, I can see that I have a new icon for it with a bow. That is. Okay, cool. So, okay. So what should we do now? I think that we need to move to the backlog.
Yeah, go to the backlog.
And it will be a good idea to pass the issues one by one, because we have our sprint, it is already started, and we need to make sure that we need to go through all the issues here we have, and to make sure that we know what we should do in the next 2 weeks. I assume that we have started our issues. Let me check it out, please. I assume that we have started our own sprint 2 weeks ago on the 5th of January.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, historically, right, there really hasn't been too much sprint planning around this.
So let's assume maybe we can just move the date of the sprint start on today, right? How do you think? If it's a good idea.
Yeah. So the reason why I think we should pick a Monday, because Monday is the best day for Jonathan.
So I mean, it's just like it is a matter of start date and end date.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but given that we need to meet with Jonathan, we need to make sure that everyone can make it. Jonathan, Monday was the best day for you, right? To talk?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, well, I can start just like a sprint on the 14th of January in this case.
Yeah.
It will be Monday, and the end date will be the 28th of January.
That's fine.
2 weeks. Yeah. Okay, cool. Update. So it will be started only from this point, because for now, yep, cool.
So I think Ian and I have already prioritized this backlog, haven't we?
Yeah, and that's why I think we should take. I think we should also review it in the context of the template. Yeah,
well, the thing is, I don't want to go through all the backlog items. We did that before.
Well, if you can stay with us for the
No. I'm just saying in general, because what we need to do is add. We've now got a new item on here, which is add support for MiaPago.
Yes. Yeah.
And what we should do, I think, is work out, in order to provide that, what things do we need to take out of the backlog?
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So.
Yeah.
As you can see it here, we have a backlog and you have prioritized it, but the problem here is that we need to form a sprint.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure what exactly.
Well, what's at the top of the backlog?
Design initial Idento user interface. It is backlog.
No, yeah, but what's the thing is that finished? The thing above it. What's the group above it?
It is a current sprint. It is already current sprint that will be started on let me check it out. It will be started on 14th of January.
Well, so let's talk about the items on it, because some of them are done already. Right, you can look at them. Two of the 4 are already complete.
Yes, you're talking about the ones that are complete already, right?
Correct.
Yes. So as far as I can understand, 2 subtasks were completed here, and 2 big tasks were completed here by Jonathan.
Yeah.
So it is 8586 feature with front camera and application components, and investigation about camera for HTML5 access.
Yes.
We can close it now because.
The one thing we need to do with what we are currently calling the current sprint, we need to just go through those 4 issues and see what the status is, because they might be closed. And then we can talk about planning. So if you just go back to the backlog and literally just go through them one by one.
Yeah, sure. As we do usually. So the question is only here, how much issues can we push to the nearest sprint for 2 weeks? And the question is also here that we need to finish all the issues that we will put to the sprint in 2 weeks. Yes. It is an idea. So I have also a question about here. So these 2 issues are done, right? And these 2 issues are not done yet.
Well, the question. That's why I want to talk about them. Yeah.
So the question is, do we need to leave it here, or do we need to maybe to push it to the backlog? And what should be the priority of it?
Right. Okay. So the list mobile app components we would like built is the components we need for MiaPago.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So as you can see, in progress already is a few subtasks like feature, fingerprint reader, location person.
And also, I think we need to convert some of these to tasks because it becomes more manageable having subtasks.
Yeah, sure. Which one?
The first one, which is the fingerprint reader. I know Jonathan. I don't think Jonathan, you finished it, but it's definitely in progress, right?
Oh yeah, it's in progress. Well, I'm getting to a point where I'm almost finished with it, but yes.
Okay, well that's good because that is definitely one that we do need for MiaPego. Definitely. So I think we should convert that to a task, Tally.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And just keep it in the sprint.
Mm-hmm. Sorry for that. Okay, I'm pretty sure that it should be in the current sprint. Let me check it out. Here it is. Current sprint, here it is.
So now to get back into the list, whatever it was. Let's have a look at the next one. Right, so what have we got? That one's done. The front camera's done. That's fine. And then we've got, okay, location passing. How far are you through that, Jonathan? Have you looked at it or not?
Actually, all the ones that I've started in progress currently, I've been working on kind of in tandem simultaneously, just to create all three components of those. And so I'm pretty far with progress on that one as well.
Okay.
I'm going to get it to a point to where you can call for what location you have, and then retrieve it back, and we'll do whatever we want with that information. It was a bit ambiguous because I'm not sure quite what exactly location information we want, but other than that, I'm doing just fine.
What are you passing at the moment? Is it just the GPS coordinates or something?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. So I think if you're close to the end mark, I think even though that's not critical for MiaPego, I think we might as well just finish that off.
Yeah, because don't you want it for the tag team app?
Yes. Yeah. So let's leave that in the sprint as well, Vitaly, but you might want to convert this to a task as well.
Sure. The problem here is that we should put it out of the sprint, right?
No, it should be in the sprint.
Oh, okay. Unfortunately, there is no fast option here for some reasons to push it to the sprint. Maybe I can do that with here. Yep, I can do that. Cool. This one. Cool. This one is in the back.
Let's go to the list again. So what we've got next? We've got app activation from phone-based browser.
So that's a deep linking to the application. So you click on a link, and then it opens the application.
Yeah. So see, the thing is, I think what we want is a deep link from another application or a browser.
Yeah, because it's
because this is what we will want is a deep link from MiaPego.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think of the origin of this request. I think this might be to do with I can't remember why that was there.
Well, the thing is, I think I would have said we need it anyway because it's a kind of we'll want. So if you think about all of the things we want out of Idento, we'll want a link out of other apps into Idento.
Yeah, fair enough. So convert the number 3 there, Vitaly, to a task.
This one, right?
Yeah. And let's keep it. But Jonathan, if we wanted to extend this one to deep link from browsers and other applications, do you want another task for that, or do you want to just make reference to the fact that we want that link from browsers and applications?
Let's just make it as reference because when I was working on this one, it was actually pretty easy to integrate the deep links.
Yeah.
What I'm looking at currently is callbacks to the application. Not quite finished yet because I want to know what we want to get from the web browser, if we want to get any requests from web browser, or from the application, other applications that is trying to access me at Idento. So what information we want to pass between applications.
Yeah, so that is effectively why I want to do Mia Pago, because for Mia Pago, we'll be very clear what we want. We want the payment details.
Yeah.
Because you see, I'm assuming that what we'll want is to set a persona up in Mia Idento, add payment details, then permission. So that's in Mia Idento, and then permission in that persona Mia Pago for that persona, and to give it access to the account details.
That makes sense. Yeah.
You know, and that's to some extent why I want to do them both, because it's this inter-application that we kind of want to work our way through.
So at a minimum, let's just divert quickly. What we need are two personas, right? We need a consumer persona and we need a merchant persona.
Persona, yes.
Right. So, and are those personas? Yeah, they're Mia Idento personas, right?
Yep.
Right.
Which have got Mia Idento stored information, which Mia Pago just accesses.
Yeah. So I think if you go back to the backlog of Mia Idento,
sorry, Ian, and just to, I think we presume at the moment that the merchant is a sole trader. So they're both, they're just people. We don't worry about the corporate stuff.
Yeah, for now, yeah.
Yeah, just for this initial sprint.
So do you want to wrap that under the persona contract there, Mark? It's not really a contract, is it?
No, I know, but that's a bit of design work that we need to do.
Yeah, sorry. What I'm trying to get at is, do we need to raise another task, another issue?
I think so. Yeah, I think there are probably I think that conversation we've just had is several tasks.
Yeah. I'm just looking down the backlog to see if there's anything else. Yeah, I'll create persona based.
Because you see, I think all the other things in the backlog are really more general than this thing we've just described.
Yeah.
So if you see what I mean. So
let's. I think that depends, aren't we? You're completely quite up to date. Can you create a new task?
Yeah, sure.
For the current sprint, and call it create consumer persona for making payments. And in the description, you just put, we need a Mia Idento persona that represents an individual as a consumer. Now, Mark, we don't need to store the account information, right? Because what we need to do with that is
where are we going to store it? Well, I would have thought you do store it in Mia Idento.
I'm just trying to think. Well, you call an API, right? Or are you talking about?
No. So Mia Pago. So in my mind, technically, Mia Pago is just an application that accesses APIs and has business logic in it.
Yep.
If it wants to know details of that, it needs to talk to Mia Idento via a persona.
Okay. And what information do you think Pago is taking from Idento about the consumer?
Their account number. Their login information to whatever the API is, because they're going to have to log into the API.
Oh, you're right. I'm being an idiot, because actually that's, in order to run the API, it needs to know the account number, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, right. So back to the task. So the minimum information, Vitaly, I think, first name, last name. You might want to create a list underneath this, because there'll be a few fields. So first name, last.
Hell, I have created. Okay, that's okay. Just pressed.
So, Ian, just a quick question. Yeah. Do you see making and receiving payments to be the separate or the same?
I see push payments rather than pull payments.
Yes, yeah, I know, but basically, I presume we're going to do merchant to receive payments is what you're going to write. But then if the merchant does a refund, you've got the process going in the other direction.
Yeah, although I just think it's consumer pushes a payment or merchant pushes a payment.
Yeah, but then is there a difference between the merchant and the consumer?
Not necessarily, because it's just a person paying a person. But I think we need to create two people, otherwise it gets confusing.
No, I agree with that. I'm just kind of trying to clarify whether...
Yeah. I think at the moment what you have is someone initiates a payment request and the other person agrees to it and therefore pushes it.
Yeah, well, so maybe we should call it initiator persona rather than consumer.
Oh, consumer. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. So call where it says consumer, Vitaly, in the description. It says represents an individual as a payment initiator, and then just put in brackets, e.g., a consumer. Doesn't have to be, but.
Yeah, I always just wonder where you were going with this, because at a story level they are different. Probably at a technical implementation level,
they're not. Yeah.
Then, well, the thing is, I think with what we're doing at the moment, they're not, right?
Yeah.
I think in the end we will end up with a merchant does a refund, which is a different sort of push.
Yeah. And in reality, in the end, most merchants will be a business, so they'll need to be a business.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I think for the moment, we're just not trying to do that. We're just trying to.
So the other list, Vitaly, you've got first name, last name, bank account number, bank sort code.
Bank sort.
Yeah, bank sort code.
Sort code.
Sort. SOR. Yeah.
Sorry.
Sort code, something like that, right? I hope that I understand the correct.
Yeah, as in sorting into order.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Sort code.
Yeah.
That's probably it, Mark, isn't it? Because they're the only details I think we need to pass.
Well, I think so. I mean, we'll have to look at.
Yeah. So that's in the persona. Yeah. Now I think let's create another. Oh, this is interesting, Mark. Because I see your point, because this one task now does the merchant as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, merchant payment, it doesn't do the receiver, and the receive process is different because in MiraPayGo, we're going to need a transition of your receiver.
Yeah, so you've got the persona has those details, and then you've got an action about those details, which is
in MiraPayGo, not Idento.
Yeah, which is send them basically.
So let me make an interjection here, because I'm noticing the persona you guys are trying to make here. With the bank account number and the bank sort code, that's information that's very, I guess, volatile. You don't want to have other people get a hold of that. And so it's not something you particularly want to keep on the application side itself, but rather on a server side with the personas. And so personas may be more stored locally, but the actual information for those, like the actual deep personas, such as your banking account information, may need to be stored on an account on a server.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, which is the bit of design we need to do, basically.
Yeah.
And whether whom should I assign this issue?
Well, I think Jonathan should do it.
I think there's a conversation with, I guess it's Max, because it's all to do with the persona contract design.
Yeah, it's actually from Max.
Sure.
Because we've now got a, because what we're going to get out of this is exactly that conversation, in that basically we don't want any of this information all needs to get encrypted and stored server side. It actually needs to be transferred through the Idento app to MiraPayGo without Idento storing it, probably. So we need to work, because what this gives us is the steps in the chain, and we can think about who needs what. Yeah. Which is to some extent why I wanted to get to something specific, because the trouble with the Idento stuff is it's very generic until you do something like this, at which point it's easier to realize that, what bits of data need to be stored where.
Yeah. And I'd like to add also with the API integration with banks, that perhaps we want to be accessing any transactions like that on the server side as well, because any type of I guess, user-side transactions that are coming back and forth and authorizing on the user side are much more vulnerable to attacks.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, the only slight confusion with that is I strongly suspect the Sterling Bank API will be a phone-only API. I mean, that certainly is absolutely true for the open banking stuff, but Sterling's a bit of an odd case.
Yeah.
Which we're going to need to think through. But again, we need the specifics of the API and understand what the requirements are.
Yeah, so, and actually it's probably worth saying at this point, we're thinking about opening up a Sterling Bank account. So Sterling is a bank, a new UK bank. They've gone further than any other bank so far in that they've ignored the open banking stuff and just published a whole load of APIs anyway that people can use. So I might open up a bank account for distributed vision.
Yeah, we need to.
And then we can integrate to it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those points you're making, Jonathan, are absolutely on. You know, that's what we need to kind of design in.
I just need to disappear for 1 minute. Hold on.
Yeah, sure.
Oh no.
So these simple sounding tasks have got quite a lot of work behind them.
Mm-hmm. I understand. So maybe we can put some estimations here, by the way. I'm not sure if you need that.
Yeah, well, let's just capture some more. I think, so we've got a consumer persona. We do need a second persona in order to talk about the thing.
Mm-hmm. Should I create another issue?
Yeah, well, what we need is a merchant. I mean, we need a receiving persona, basically.
Yeah. But set up another task. I mean, it might be identical to the first one. But I just want to create.
Can I clarify a little bit?
Yeah.
We want to have two personas, one for the receiver, one for the sender, or shop or consumer.
Yeah.
On our phones, if we want to pay with Sterling Bank's API, for example, right now, or any open bank API, why we need personas or store anything on our side if everything can be stored on the mobile phone? We can push history of payments or something like this to the blockchain, for example, but don't include any information about who is it, because we're really interested in this information.
Well, the user is interested in that information.
Yeah, and he can just go to blockchain, find whole history if it's required, or go to the Sterling Bank API to get this history. But
yeah, but you need to know what your bank accounts are.
Yeah, but
if you've got three bank accounts,
yeah, you should store everything on your site on your phone.
Well, no, I think that's not true. I think you should you probably don't want to store it on your phone, or maybe you do. I don't know. But you if you've got 5 devices, where do you store it?
Yeah, this is the question, because store it on the blockchain, which is distributed, or stored in some logs. It's a better solution. Maybe we should look for escrow contract, not escrow contracts, escrow databases. For example, Ripple used 3 different parties who store your account, and no one can restore your account without others and your password. It needs at least 3 different parties and your password to retrieve these accounts back to your machine. And it's done by you make 3 separate requests to 3 providers, storage providers, receive this data, concat it, and then decrypt.
Are you talking about the bank account or just for what purchases?
No, I mean right now how to store all this information which is required for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think eventually I see all this being stored in something like MadeSafe.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree, there's also an alternative way, which is to use a series of providers. I think that's that's part of the. I mean, I don't think you'd store it on the blockchain. I think you need to store it somewhere.
Yeah.
question is where. And I don't think you would store it on your phone specifically so that you've got multi-device access to it.
Yeah, but you can have replication of this blob of data credentials between different devices. And it means like when you switch off or decide that lock this device, for example, you can implicitly upload to any new device this wallet with passwords.
Yeah, I think you're describing one possible technical solution. I think the tasks that we're talking about here is enumerating what those solutions are and picking the one that we want to implement.
Okay.
For this specific use case. Basically. And the advantage of making it bank details is it's very, it's clearly very sensitive information.
Yeah, what I was suggesting is kind of like what we were doing with Cetasi, which was the account kind of being on a cloud system that the user anonymously accesses.
Yeah.
And that's where you store the information.
Okay, so do we need to create a new one issue for another person?
We still need a second persona. So I'd create another one called create merchant persona for receiving payment.
Yeah. Yeah. So just while you're doing that, I mean, I'm expecting a whole series of tasks to fall out of these ones when you start trying to implement them.
Yeah.
Because you're all, as a group, you're already asking the right set of questions, but all of those are just generating new tasks in terms of this planning process.
Okay, I think that it is necessary for us, at least at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to create
yeah. So Vitaly, I'm expecting this first sprint to massively overrun.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
So not all the issues will be done during it.
Yeah. And then the next time round, we'll have a better idea what we're doing.
Okay, cool. Let's try to summarize what we need to do with another persona.
Yeah, so just call it create merchant persona for receiving payments.
For what payments?
Yeah.
For receiving payments. And then in the detail, just say, similar to the consumer persona, the minimum information is first name, last name, bank account number, and sort code.
Yeah, I mean, because in practice, if you think about the Cetasi thing at the moment, that came from a very simple stated requirement, which is verify that you're over 18. How complicated can that be? And we've ended up with a whole platform out of it. And this will go the same sort of way.
Yeah.
How it is written correctly? Similar. Hello. Okay, cool. Does it also goes to Maxim? Is it also for Maxim? I mean, this is one issue.
Well, I think it is. I mean, the thing is, the first version of it, we may just naively store it on the phone. So there's almost two questions here.
Okay, cool. So both of them are for Maxim for now, assigned, I mean, and both of them are created for two personas that we have. All right. I think that we just can continue, or maybe you can hear me for some reasons.
Yeah.
I really can see only one way to use these two personas right now. It's broadcast receiver and sender. For example, if the market merchant have 5 or 6 different bank accounts to receive money, and we can use the system just to broadcast the consumer which account you want to use.
Well, or you have the consumer request and I think this may now be mere PAYGO functionality, is essentially the consumer, and so there's a piece of mere PAYGO functionality where the merchant broadcasts the fact that they want a payment,
yeah,
and with that their account details,
Yeah.
And then the consumer pays them.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that. What I think we ought to do, Mark, is flip to Project Mia Pago.
Yeah, because now we've got some.
Yeah, now we've got personas. What we need to do is create 2 new tasks in Mia Pago.
Yeah.
So if you go to Mia Pago, Vitaly.
Okay, so our next step is now to go to another project, or should we?
Yep. Just go to Mia Pago. Yep. And now we've got a task in here, a new task, which is
a new task. So integrating issue, right? Sorry. Yeah. I thought that I need to find a new task here. Okay, no problem.
And it's instigate.
Instigate. Hope this is the correct word.
Yeah, instigate payment request from merchant Mia Idento persona.
Hold on a second. I'm just wondering. So what we were talking about was tapping, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you're going to instigate the transfer from the consumer.
Well, let's talk about this quickly, and I think this is in the description. So for everyone on the call, what we think we might end up with is a device that's plugged into a merchant till, and that device has an RFID or NFC chip in it, which stores effectively the merchant information. Well, is capable of being read by the consumer's phone. And what we need to do is send the information to the chip in order to be read.
Yes, but that means that in practice, the use case is the client initiates it, and then the merchant responds to the initial request.
Is that the way it works? Because I'm thinking, and it might be
you touch the NFC reader.
Yeah.
That touching is initiating.
Yeah, but in order to receive the message, in order to receive the information needs to be transmissible, and it might not be there at that point. Right, so the merchant needs to type into the machine. So if that thing that we've plugged in has an NFC chip and an LCD display and a keypad, the merchant needs to type in £20, at which point the consumer then touches the device, and that then reads the merchant bank account number, bank sort code, and amount, and pops, initiates the app on the consumer's phone, and the consumer just says, "Do you want to pay 20 quid to this merchant?" Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the initiation is from the client side, still, even with your description.
Okay, fine. All right.
Because basically the typing in of 20 is just preparing the device to be able to respond to the client initiation. Because you're going to you will tap your phone on the payment device.
Yeah.
The NFC thing will cause the Mia Pago app to launch, and then the Mia Pago app will initiate the request.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you don't have the NFC thing, basically the client is saying, "I'm prepared to pay," and it just waits until the merchant says it's £20. Here's your receipt. Because before the merchant sends the information, they need to know somebody's ready to receive it.
Yeah. Okay. But presumably you don't see the consumer tapping twice, right?
But why? Sorry, why do they need to tap twice?
No, I'm just saying. So in the actual physical world, the merchant reaches down to their device, they tap 20 quid in. Then,
they don't. I think you're making an assumption about order which doesn't need to be made, because effectively you could either do it client first or merchant first. It doesn't actually matter. The client is still going to, as far as we're concerned here, at an application level, the client will still do the initiation.
Okay, right.
Because on the device, if you type 20 before the client, nothing's been initiated. The device is inactive. It doesn't do anything. If you tap it with the client, the device waits for something to be entered.
Yeah, but that means you have to hold the phone over the device whilst you're tapping the stuff in. Whereas I'm saying, can't you preload the device with all the information? You tap the device, all the information is transmitted in that one.
Yeah, but that may not be how we decide to do it, because we might decide to transfer the information across the internet.
True. Okay.
So what we may or may not transfer the information across the NFC interface.
Yeah.
Basically.
Have you seen how payments in China works without only with phones, without any credit cards and other things?
Yeah.
You just have your QR code and scanner. Like
well, I don't think you need a QR code. I mean, so maybe, Ian, for what we're doing at the moment, it will be better to do phone-to-phone payments.
Yeah. Let's assume it's phone-to-phone for simplicity.
You can look here. This is two links. It's like China spends $5.5 trillion per year for mobile payment without any credit cards. And the second is how it works. They just provide to the shops their image, and it's scanned with scanner.
Yeah, well, I think we're going beyond that. We're saying we don't need an image. We just do it phone to phone. It's just an electronic connection. You don't need a QR code.
Yeah, but it works without a specific protocols, additional chips, and you just provide QR code where some money already locked. You lock, for example, $10 to this QR code, and first who scan it can get it. And it's how it works.
Yeah, I'm just saying we're not planning to do that. We're planning to just do electronic communications.
Okay.
Essentially. I mean, we could do it with a QR code, but I think that's just a special case.
Yeah.
Essentially. Where you've got QR code reading on the phone. But I mean, so we could do this with just two mobile phones, or a mobile phone and a computer. And I think if you're doing that, you would initiate the request on the client side. And the reason for that is because the merchant doesn't know who to send the information to.
Yeah, I think for the purposes of this particular task, it's far easier for the foreseeable future if we just assume it's always mobile to mobile.
Yeah,
and then we can figure out whether we want to add more things after.
Yeah, well, so in which case it needs to be consumer initiated.
Yeah, and also then it just makes a simple app actually, because you've got send payment or receive payment type screens as well.
So a quick question about that, and this has to deal with kind of cryptocurrency type ideas. The fact of that there's Bitcoin out there, and Bitcoin's wallet is actually stored locally. Do we want to do something like that kind of sets up the device as a wallet like that, and then sometime during the day the wallet communicates with your actual bank account and uploads whatever type of currency back up to your, or sends a request like that. That way you're getting the money transaction in person, but all the actual transactions that deal with your bank account happen over a server. So that way, I guess what I'm saying is we want to make sure that we have a local wallet and something, and then your bank account information is not being transferred between devices.
What Jonathan's just described is quite interesting, because what you might be able to do, create a pre-auth for a certain amount.
No, that's right.
You know what? Let's park that for the time being, Jonathan, because I think we will get to it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is with what we're talking about, that's right. But what you'd have is you'd just be transferring between two wallets at that point. You still need the phone-to-phone interaction.
Yeah.
What that basically would entail then is that the phone-to-phone interaction does not deal so much with your bank account information at that point. Rather, it just deals with that person and the person across the counter.
Yeah, that's true, and that's what you want the personas for, because the personas are identifying the people.
Yeah.
And what you'll get into is effectively we will then want to enter a PIN or a fingerprint to confirm the persona. And that's a reason for having the bank account information in Mir Idento, because Mir Pago then doesn't actually know anything about your bank account.
Yeah.
It only knows about the persona that you're dealing with.
Yeah. So, and then once you need to use that bank account, I guess the persona will access the Mir Pago wallet, will transfer funds into the wallet. The wallet will then transfer funds to the merchant.
Yeah, and the whole point is you haven't given your bank account details away, which means if your persona for any reason gets compromised, you just trash it and start again.
Yeah.
And basically the only thing that you've transferred around that's at risk is that persona, which if you think about it in Bitcoin terms is the equivalent of your account address.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing that you've described is exactly what we're trying to do, basically. Where when we're talking about personas, it's effectively the equivalent of a Bitcoin address. We're just calling it persona because it can get used for other things as well.
Yeah.
But in this context, it's exactly the same.
It kind of the same. It makes it a little bit easier to kind of manage that, and I feel like that would be a great integration factor, especially since there's already an architecture and framework out there for that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The question is, how do you think we can end with creation of this issue?
Yeah. So I would say maybe we need to change the summary.
Yeah, it's not initiated from the merchant. It's initiated from the client to the merchant.
Just say initiate payment. There you go. Initiate payment request. Payment request from consumer to merchant.
Yeah, because I think what I'd like to stick in Mir Pago is also another task, which is initiate a refund.
Yeah. So what in the description, Ali, just write in the description, not in the summary. So I would say consumer broadcasts their willingness to pay receives, so full stop.
Receives.
Yeah, you might not full stop it because it's otherwise going to get confusing. No. Delete. delete.
Dot.
To pay, willingness to pay. Paragraph.
Right. I'm just going to disappear for 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure. So
next line. Receives payment currency, payment amount.
Amount currencies.
Yeah, amount and so £20. So amount and currency. And so comma receives a payment amount and currency, and bank sort code and bank account number. Full stop. Next line. Consumer is presented with authentication request. And confirms or not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Oh, I think we need this one, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. I say knees.
I don't know. I think leave this one not yet. Just leave it unassigned for now.
Mm-hmm. And what's about sprint?
Yeah, I think. Well, let's put it in the current sprint, but I'm not sure whether we'll get to it. But...
Does make sense. Sure. Okay. By the way, this sprint isn't started yet, as you can see it. By the way, why? Okay.
Yeah.
As I can see it, it will be a current sprint, and this one is a future sprint. I think that we need to combine them.
Yeah,
it will be good with, yes, for me to make sure. So I will just push it here. Yep, because it will be better. Cool. Okay, good.
And do you want to rename that sprint just because it's going to get confusing otherwise?
Frankly speaking, yeah. Let me just think about
it. Or delete it. Yeah,
I can think that we can delete this one sprint, and will we be able to start it once? It has already started. Okay, yes, we had a current sprint that has already started, so let me just delete it. So it has the same name as the sprint here. Should they coincide or not? I can tag with me a pager.
Yeah.
I think it will be correct.
That's fine, yeah.
This one
so I think if you go back to Idento, yeah, keep it here for a sec. Right, so we've got, so go to the list of mobile component features again. Oh, we're going back to that.
Here, sorry, I'm just getting back to the thing that Max suggested.
Yeah.
If we're going to keep this phone to phone,
yeah,
maybe we do want a QR code. So what I'm thinking in is that it's just, how do you initiate this? You got to load me a PayGo, I'm guessing, on the consumer side. Is that an issue or not? You load it and then you do pay. It probably doesn't matter, does it?
I think those are the things that we need to work through.
Right. Okay. Fine. Yeah. So.
Yeah. This is why, I mean, so I think it's somewhat a language thing and maybe a technical thing, but I see whichever side initiates it, the reality is the merchant is going to ask the consumer to pay something, right?
Yes, it's just that you've got to establish connection before you make the request.
Yes, but I see what ideally you'd be handing over all the information at the same time. And if it's not at the same time and it's a quick back and forth, then the back and forth needs to be so quick that it can't be interrupted.
Yeah, but the so quick is microseconds.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
But you will have to, well, no, it will always be interruptible. So you basically have to pass a token.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to understand where the initiation is. Because you're going to have a conversation with several messages in it, which need to be tied together. You can't rely on it happening so quickly. It's not going to break.
Well, I mean, so the consumer comparison mark is tap and pay, right?
Yeah, but tap and pay has got a whole message flow that you don't see.
Yeah. But that's,
well, we're describing the message flow here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. Right. Okay. So let's look at Mia app feature.
I mean, Ian, tap and pay has got the equivalent of your computer booting up.
Yeah.
Before it starts.
Yeah. So on this mark, number 3, I think we convert this to a task and put it in the backlog.
What's that? 3.
Access the NFC chip on the phone.
Yeah, because it sounds like we don't need to do it.
Yeah. So convert number
to get Mia PayGo done.
Yeah. I don't think we need that for now. Just convert that to a task.
This one, right?
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Yeah, and just put it in the backlog.
It is on a side, by the way.
Yeah. So with Android, we could do NFC to NFC if we want to, you know.
Yeah.
I sort of agree that we put it in the backlog, but actually, if you could touch the phones together.
Yeah.
Cool. And what's about the last one?
So what's this one say?
Metrics and Signal.
Oh yeah, secure messaging. I think you can put that to the back, convert to a task, and put it in the backlog as well.
Yeah.
It is still unassigned, so.
Convert to, yeah. And then I think we can close that other task down because I think it's done.
Yes. Otherwise, it is done.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What we can have here, so we have converted it in the backlog, and this one task is big one is done. As far as I remember, these ones we have created with you, so we can continue with this task also done. Persona contract.
Yeah. So this persona.
Yeah. So Ian, I've just got a question with how far do we want to go with this in terms of what we're asking for Mia Pago? Do we want to do any of this camera? What do we want to do in terms? So if we've got a Mia Idento persona that is going to have payment details associated with it, do we want face recognition, fingerprint registration? What? Do you see what I'm asking? Because I'm not quite sure what I'm asking, but I'm just.
Well, so the real question you're asking is that if this app is capable of making payments, it needs to be secure.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So I think the standard is a minimum PIN, like 5 or 6 digit PIN. So when I use my banking apps on my phone, the minimum is a 5 digit PIN. Okay, so that's one account. With some of the other ones, I've got a choice between a 6 digit PIN and a fingerprint. I think we want the fingerprint option because it's just convenient. Confirm the fingerprint.
Going back to my suggestion earlier, and this is a build on that, do we want to build a device level persona where that's what interacts with everything at that point? And so at that point, you kind of have a singular wallet access and whatever minimum credentials you need to access anything at that point. And then it passes any secure credentials that the merchant might need, perhaps an age or something like that, through. Otherwise, you don't have to have access to the bank account that way, other than to communicate with the device, the system side persona. That way, you're not necessarily communicating from device to device, but rather you're communicating between the one device persona and your overall persona, allowing for a secure transfer of funds.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me. I think what would be good is to start kind of sketching these things out.
Yeah.
But yeah, because those are separate things.
Yeah.
Because I think we want that in function. So in terms of this round of functionality we're doing, we kind of, that's part of the stuff we want built, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think what our aim is here is to try and get some phone apps that demonstrate the process.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Because from a getting this idea marketed, all the back end stuff is probably. So I'm just thinking for somebody like Darren, Ian, we could demonstrate it to him and he could go around and demonstrate it to people.
Yeah. And let's be crystal clear here. So I think, I don't know 100%, but with Starling Bank, if I've got, I personally have a Starling personal account. If we create a business account for Distributed Vision, which I think we can do, and we can access the APIs, and we build an application that we permission, then we can start sending in money from my personal account to DV account and vice versa.
Yeah, and then we can work through the receipting bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Yeah, and that doesn't even rely on this open banking regulation.
Yeah,
that's just us starting to prove the functionality and all these security features, even in advance of the open bank of getting an entity regulated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the goal. We want an application that I download on my phone twice effectively. Once as me and once as
one onto your phone, the other onto your iPad.
Yeah.
Well, so mobile devices already have a localized persona on them. As so you put in an email when you first kind of boot up the device, and so that's a local account system on there. And so what I was describing is that account is not necessarily you. That's the device.
Yeah.
And so the device will obviously have a wallet, will obviously have credentials of its own, but that device can talk to your persona, and that's where
although the only thing to be clear, Jonathan, is that I am me, but as me, I might want to pay under different things. So for example, I can make payments from Distributed Vision's bank account. That's not me. That's the company's bank account.
That's what I mean.
But I've only got one device, right? So
yeah, one device. The device has its persona, which will take on the persona that you give it. So you pass persona credentials through it, saying, "This is who I am," and pass it on that way.
Yeah, and so Ian, that's where we will get down to the right. That's quite a good, useful use case, because we need to make sure the user interface makes it easy, makes it secure, even at your personal level, that you don't pay by mistake out of the wrong account.
Yeah.
You know, which is if you're a multi-persona, if you're a single device multi-persona user transferring accounts, it needs to be really clear to you. I mean, it's a bit like that card API, right?
Yeah.
Where it's give you a big picture of what it is you're about to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like Apple Pay, actually.
Yeah.
The idea is that local wallet, and this is what I keep describing, is just a in between. So once you want to transfer funds, you initiate that from your persona. The funds get transferred to your local wallet, then transferred to the person you're buying from.
So I think effectively what Ian's saying is you would have two local wallets in that situation.
Yeah.
And that would make sense.
Yeah. You know, which is it's the canonical, it's the multi-wallet thing that you get in Bitcoin, the HD wallet. It's a similar kind of thing that we need to think through, because you're using it as a person for different purposes, and it's going to be associated with different accounts.
So just bringing this back on track with this persona contract issue that Vitaly's showing at the moment.
Yeah, sure.
What's the current status of this Max? Max is still around.
I'm not sure. Max is still with us.
He's on mute.
With us.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. What state here? Yeah.
Yeah.
We have several personas, but we not plan to use them for payment. We plan them use for some facts about you and sub facts. There are, I think, 3 contracts right now. One is general. The second is about, if I remember correctly, it's just any fact, and the third H. Yeah, one is H persona, and the third is DNS persona. Yeah, it's Right now, it's what we have.
So we probably need to update that for payments, right, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to sit and define the requirements, because again, it's basically the trouble with this persona stuff is we've done some general stuff without. I think this will be a lot more concrete, essentially.
Yeah.
Because I think what we need is we need the payment personas, and we also want the receipt handling personas, and they may be the same thing, they may be different.
Yeah.
Because again, we're dealing the who manages the receipt and who makes the payment aren't necessarily the same people. Same personas, even if you're managing it.
Yeah. So what do you want to do with this particular task? Should we put this in the backlog and create different ones, or what?
I think so, yeah, because I think we should create some specific tasks.
Yeah. So Vitaly, just put this one in the backlog. So 9.
Okay, so the question is here is that we have a lot of okay, it's blocked by Okay, we don't have any subtask here. Okay, I think that this one goes to the top or bottom. How do you think?
Put it top. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Just for us, basically, I push some things to the top of backlog in case if we are going to do it in the nearest months, for example.
Yeah. And then maybe create 1 or 2 more, which correct the issue.
Yeah, I mean, because what I'm thinking we'll do is we'll just create some relatively free form things, and then we need to, once we've got something working for payments, sit down and do a more structured design. But we'll actually know what the technical requirements are once we've, you know, because it feels to me at the moment that we're sort of as a group feeling around for what are the technical requirements.
Yeah. Although isn't actually the create consumer persona, that is the payment persona, isn't it? Or not?
Yeah, but does it have a root persona?
Oh yeah, shit.
What is the root persona? If it's a company, so there's a whole series of interpersona questions, which I think we ought to not ask at the moment, but they are basically there.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you see what I mean? I mean, it's just
add another task, but put it in the backlog.
So
add another task, and just put design persona Mia Idento. Sorry, design Mia Idento persona.
Well, it's a payment persona
structure. Well, I'm thinking about the root persona.
Oh, right. Okay, fine. Yeah.
Design Mia Idento persona structure. Discussion between Mark, Max, and Ian.
Yeah.
And then we'll just have to have it at some point because we need to start thinking about it. Actually, in the comments as well. Put in the comments. Don't forget about companies.
Sure. So, whom should I say? How do you think?
Yeah,
I can send to Ian.
Yeah, put it to me. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is just right.
Yeah, it's just from my perspective. I'd be more comfortable getting to a point where we've done payments, we've got some defined requirements, and then we can build the structure, rather than what I feel we're doing at the moment, which is I'm sort of inventing the structure.
Yeah. Well, we can use. I think we as if we use DV and me as the use case.
Yeah. No, exactly. We've got a
structure there because DV is a company.
Yeah, and then we need to work out. Well, and you've got a relationship with DV, and there's payments. So yeah, I think actually encapsulated with that is a fairly standard set of requirements, and making it payment related actually makes them more concrete. You know,
something I also just thought of here. So what happens when somebody has connectivity issues? So say you have Persona right on your phone. You would like to transfer funds from your account. Well, at that point, you can't communicate with your account because you're not connected to the internet. So we need some type of way that, I guess, marks that persona and allows for that merchant to kind of keep a record of that.
Yeah, and that's what I don't think it's near term, but I think that's what will be a probable feature would be the ability to preload 50 quid on your phone or something like that.
Yeah, into your phone wallet.
Onto your phone, or perhaps the wallet is stored somewhere else as well.
Yeah.
If needed be. So if you don't have connectivity, perhaps the wallet uses transfers funds to a wallet that's in the cloud. This cloud wallet then transfers the funds to the merchant.
Yeah, or you could just literally do it device to device, right? If it's NFC.
Yeah.
So I think we just put that on the list of to-dos in the future because that's it's definitely an interesting use case.
Yeah, and it also basically allows you to see. I think that if you were only using Neopago, you could effectively. So if you're only using, and this may be a standardization thing that you want, is that you're effectively transferring into a channel.
Yeah,
out of your bank account.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're doing. Yeah.
So you want to reserve an amount of money in your bank account. So that's your your zero balance in your account should be 0 plus whatever you've got in channels, which will save you from going overdrawn.
Yep.
But yeah, that's like a step 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of like a virtual check system.
Yeah. Well, because my use case for that is then you've got another account that you can ask for money from instead of going overdrawn. The bank of mum and dad. What we're actually going to do as part of this is properly establish the bank of mum and dad.
Yeah. Okay, so I think.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking that we can probably stop here because I think the current sprint in Paygo and Idento is more than enough.
Yeah, I agree with that
for the current sprint. And I think the priority, just a general steer, Jonathan, should be if you can just finish off the stuff that you've been doing on the components, and just get those done. And then you can start thinking about some of the other things. I think for Vlad, who's been diligently just listening, what I need to do, I need to have a call with you, Vlad, and we can start talking about effectively user design, basically, and what a Mia Paygo and Mia Idento app in this context will look like. Well, obviously, you've got the Mia Idento one, actually, so we might want to think about it in the context of the Mia Idento app that you've built, and we also need to have a discussion about Mia Paygo. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if Vlad concentrates on user experience, basically, and design, and maybe Jonathan focusing on back-end functionality, and then Max and Mark chipping in that appropriately.
Yeah, and I think as a group we should talk through the whole kind of wallet, not wallet, other payment thing. It would be useful for us to have alongside the, what I'm hoping is this is enough work for people to start getting an idea of what we're doing, and then we can actually start discussing what we think the requirements for this overall is.
Yeah.
So, guys, I have a question also here. So,
I'm sorry that I interrupt. I should go. I will watch.
Yep, that's fine.
The report.
I think we're finishing, Max, anyway.
Okay.
I have only a few questions to discuss here. So, what should be the main focus of the sprint? How do you think? What should be? I mean, in a few words, like for our project, we can say like MSP should be finished, or integration should be finished. Can we just deliver some main idea of the sprint?
I would like it if by the end of this sprint that we've got a better feel for the user experience.
Well, I'd be a little bit more specific. I think by the end of this sprint, we should be able to do an initial payment.
Christ, okay, you're ambitious. I like that.
Or maybe just like the aim is to.
Yeah, well, because the user experience thing can get quite big. Whereas this is, let's concentrate on the user experience that just allows us to initiate a transfer and make a payment.
Okay, so just because this one helps for me at least to understand what exactly should be when I as a sprint, right? I need to understand what exactly should we be able to finish and what should we reach in 2 weeks.
And let's be clear, that isn't with all of these features finished. It's just that we can transfer the money backwards and forwards between 2 phones with as much of this finished as we can get.
Yeah, does make sense.
Yeah.
Because then the next iteration becomes, something else. It just keeps us very focused on a very short-term goal.
Cool. And also, by the way, I have a question. We have finished with Mia Idento sprint, and what's about Mia Paygo sprint?
Well, that's the thing. This is done, I think. Let's have a look. Integrate to Starling API.
Basically, all the backlog is full of design, and if these 2 weeks are not part of design,
no, I think the current sprint as it is there is correct. In order to achieve what Mark's just said, these things will need to be done as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Unless we decide we can't do the Sterling Bank one in time, in which case we should mock it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I have only a few things to discuss. First of all, I think that looks like we are starting to work on this sprint in the nearest 2 weeks, so that I will help also to manage it, right?
Yes, please.
And also have a question. We need to have some stand-up reports, as we have for our main project with Maxim and Pavel team. So the question is, do we need to set up a status report with Alice? And
Yes,
what will be the
please.
best time for it?
I definitely think we should. So for Jonathan and Vlad, who will be new to that, in Slack, Vitaly just sets up a series of quick questions that just get sent out to everyone about status and updates, and it just acts as a good prompt to just give the team an update, basically.
Yeah, so in the proper time, Alice will message you in your private message about what have you done for the previous few days, what are you going to do in the nearest few days, do you have any blockers, do you need some additional communication? You can just answer her questions, and this report will be sent to Ian and Mark, so they can also just be focused on it.
Yeah, sorry. While we're talking, I'm just, Ian, do we want to think about actually adding integration into this, which is an open banking project sandbox? Because we don't necessarily need to do it on a live bank account.
Do they have an open banking sandbox?
Yeah, I think they do. I think that I've just chatted it to the
Okay, right. Yeah, absolutely. We could think about the sandbox. I mean, in reality, open banking is far more interesting to us than Starling anyway.
Yeah, no, and I'm just thinking rather than doing it against the Starling API,
yeah,
we could do it against the.
Okay, so you put it? Did you put it in the message of this meeting? Oh, yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me just bring it up. GitHub open banking project. Yeah, I definitely think we should. I mean, the only advantage to Starling is that we might be able to literally show it now. Apart from that, open banking is far more interesting to us.
Sorry, while we were talking, I suddenly just remembered because I looked at this before. So, and I think they've got a setup so that you can do testing. I'm not sure what of. So, I just wonder whether we should add that as a task into the Mir Idento sprint.
Yeah, we could do. So there is already a task in Mir Pago called review open banking.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about not review it, just integrate to it. Integrate to open banking sandbox.
Yeah, okay.
That's a development task, and we could do one or the other, depending on.
Good point. Well, so.
Okay, so let's assume. So let's go back to the just plane of our stand-up reports and stand-up in general.
Well, hold on, Vitaly. There's no point jumping back until we.
I'm trying to go back to the plane and stuff.
No, I'm suggesting we haven't finished the.
We haven't finished the sprint.
Sprint planning.
So Mark, Mark, I think the decision for us, and really it is only for us, is there's no doubt that open banking is far more medium-term productive, right?
Yes.
Because that is what we need to get to. The question is it worth doing Starling for demonstration purposes or not? I'm not sure.
Well, the thing is, listening to the conversation that we've just had, I'm a bit concerned that Starling will be an edge case rather than a main case.
It will be, yeah.
Yeah. So, but also, if it ends up that it's only we discover it's app based.
Yeah.
All of this.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. All right. So, Vitaly, change the Starling. There's a task in the Mir Pago thing called Starling, right?
I think we should stick that in the backlog.
Up.
Okay, Starling, this one?
Number 3.
Starling. Yeah, thank you very much.
Just change the name of it, or open that up for me so I can see the detail.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But
I don't think you should change the name of it. I think you should add another task.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Fine. Yeah, just put this in the backlog. Yeah, put this in the backlog. And then create another task, which we're going to put in the sprint, and call it integrate to open bank API sandbox. In the description,
take those 2 links that I've chatted.
Yeah, Mark's got some links in the chat on the right.
One's the GitHub and the other's the project site. So
to copy those in, but then also under that, put just a comment. Assumes we can access an open banking sandbox.
Yeah,
we need to check that obviously.
Via this project,
yeah. Yeah, because I mean, actually, Mark, if there is a sandbox, then that could be the demo anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Oh no, absolutely, and it means that it's better as well because it means that we're not having to do it live against somebody's bank account.
Yeah.
I think it's worth doing the Starling one as well, but I think this is probably a better starting point.
Yeah, so I've got a question for Vlad, really, if you're still with us, Vlad.
Yep, I am.
Would you be comfortable having a look at these sort of APIs for integration? I'm just trying to think about, because in my head, I've sort of made this mental decision, which could be totally groundless, which is to focus the user experience and app building with you, and focus, I guess, the components, the interaction, the back end with Jonathan. Now, that's just a completely arbitrary, I guess, mental decision that I've made. And it might be that you both can flip-flop between the tasks. And so have you dealt with these sort of integration things before in the past or not? Would you feel comfortable?
Really, but I will try, and yeah. I don't really think that's sticking.
I mean, the other thing is that I think the open banking API might be more for Macs, because I suspect we're going to have a backend server doing that actual integration.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's keep it as is then. As in, let's stick this against Max, and we'll tell him the good news tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, he's not on the phone anymore, is he? Yeah, he's got another task while he wasn't.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you leave a call, right? You get dumped with a task.
Yeah, because Ian, I think what we would have is we'd have a server that integrates to the open banking API, and then effectively that process we were talking about of moving stuff into wallets, we'd have probably some wallet management contract or something.
Yeah.
That's basically accessing, or it may be an interledger thing, in fact, in practice for this payment stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of design that we need to do. And again, if we're doing that, it will be supported in the right place in the infrastructure.
Unfortunately, it looks like we have some issues with distributed vision Jira. I think it is something on the client side. Let me just cancel it, and I will reload the page. Looks like we have issues only during some sprint plannings. From speaking, I had never had issues while just working with Jira, only on some important stuff. Yes, for some reasons, looks like we had some errors that rebooted our own Cloud Jira.
All right. Oh, it's done that to me before. Not Jira, Confluence has done that to me.
Yes, it is because it is all cloud-based, and I assume that they're on the same server. Something has triggered their load. Okay, I have copy-pasted the description, but can you please remind me the title, summary?
Yeah, if it will integrate to. Well, I'll wait till it comes up.
Yeah, sure, thank you. So for some reason, it tries to load. It should work. I'm pretty sure it should.
Not happy.
Yes, it looks like, it looks like Maxim somehow affects all the stuff, so he realizes something comes.
Yeah, that's right. So we mentioned him, and he's rebooted the server.
And he's okay. I'm going to Atlassian, and I'm going to down your Jira, so it will create an issue for me. Down again. Let's wait a little. Looks like it works. Okay, much better. Let's assume that it should work now. It should.
I don't call this much better.
Yep.
Okay, I've got another URL while you were. That's probably what we want to do.
That's the same URL.
No, it's ukopenbankproject.com.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the UK Open Bank. UK Open, a demo of the open banking APIs in the UK. basically, and it's got a get an API key, etc.
Okay, guys, I think that it might be, while it's not working yet, we can go to other tasks, and I'm just, let me create for myself a little remind. I will create it after the call when the Gyro don't have any issues. So let me just do this next one. It is a description.
Yeah.
And
the
what should be
the description is integrate to open banking APIs.
Great.
But you need to add the other URL that Mark has put into the chat.
Sure. Yes, I can see it.
Last one.
Okay. Okay. Let's assume that I can do that. Something like that. Cool. Because it looks like I don't want to waste too much time on waiting it for a load. So, okay, we can move forward. So, do we need to create any other tasks here? Oh, okay,
no.
It works. Cool. Hope we won't have any issues again. So, by the way, should I assign it to Maxim, right?
Yeah. In practice, we might be able to get Max and Alex to manage it between themselves.
No, I mean, it may be Alex that we get to do it, in fact, actually, because it's...
I have put it to the current sprint of Mia
just
paper.
do me a favor, in the comment, or add a comment to it that just says Max and Alex to discuss with Ian.
Yeah, you're right, because effectively it might be Alex who does the actual integration.
We might split it into two, basically.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Do we have any other issues that we need to discuss here? How do you think?
That is absolutely plenty.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Don't have another error, otherwise I'll think of something else.
Anyway, we assign it not to me but to Maxim, so I think that yes, we can do that. The question is also, so I still want to go back to the planning time. So the question is, how often do we need to status reports during the week? I assume that it will be twice a week, as for all of our projects.
I think so. Yeah.
And when? The main question is when.
Well, for Max's sanity, I would try and at least time it so that it doesn't arrive at the same time as, and possibly same day as other stuff. So the other ones go on a Thursday, don't they? Or not? Or Tuesday?
For me at Testo, we have Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
So maybe we can have different days for this project. For example, Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah, why not? Yep.
Okay, and what's about time and day? Because Jonathan has different time zone. We can push status reports, for example, not in the morning for us, but in the morning for Jonathan.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense, because otherwise he's going to be getting them in the middle of the night.
Okay, Jonathan, if we will push our status reports for you to start for about 5 p.m., I think it will be something like 8 a.m. for you. Won't it be too early? How do you think?
Do you know what we're talking about?
Yeah, so I answer questions weekly about, or bi-weekly, about what my progress updates are.
Yeah.
So yes, it is something like this stand-up report. So Alice will come to you at some time. She will ask you some questions. So the question is, when it is comfortable for you to answer her questions.
What time's comfortable for me to answer questions? 8 a.m. does work well.
Okay, so I'm going to start a report. So it will start to ask you for about an 8 a.m. and you will have for about an hour to answer Alice bot. And after the hour at 6 p.m. our local time until it will be 9 a.m. for you, your status report will be sent up in special chat. Okay, cool. This makes sense. So the question is also, Ian, whom should I also add to this report? Only Jonathan and Vlad, or anybody else?
Actually, now that I consider it, can we move that back maybe an hour? I wake up very early anyway, so.
Okay, sure. So it will be 7 a.m. for you, right?
Yeah, 7 a.m. would be better.
And it will be 4 p.m. for us. And Ian, it will be 1 p.m. for you.
That's fine. Yep.
1 p.m. for you in Monday and 1 p.m. for you in Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. And also the question is, will it be only Jonathan and Vladislav, or should we add someone else?
I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
Well, it sounds like we want Max and Alex to. I mean, they may respond that they haven't done anything, but that's fine.
Yeah. Just put Max and Alex on it, and we'll tell them that if they're not doing anything, just to say they're not doing anything.
Cool. So I'm going to stop it in the nearest time. I think that I will stop it after the calls, not to waste your time on this stuff. So for now, we have Monday and Wednesday. It will be 4 p.m. for us. And the question is also about, let me think about. We need to have a summarized call at Fridays.
So
at the end of the week.
We need to have a what, sorry?
Summarized calls. As for me or Idento, we have summarized call.
Well, I'm conscious of, I don't know, actually. Maybe not.
So Fridays for me are actually good past 9:30 a.m. my time.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe let's let it run for a bit and see how it goes.
Yeah, I think for the first sprint at least, with the status reports, let's just see how we go without it, and then just meet in 2 weeks' time.
Okay.
And if we need to step it up with more frequent meetings, that's fine. Because what I think might happen this first 2 week sprint is that we'll have lots of ad hoc calls anyway. Because I think, well, for example, Vlad and I need to chat. So I need to
also, I have a suggestion in the next stuff. If we assume that we start our sprint on Monday, that means that we will end our sprint on Monday, right?
Yeah.
That means that we can push our stand-up reports from Monday and Wednesday to Wednesday and Friday, for example. This is how we will cover all the week.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, that does make more sense. Yeah.
So we will just, I will just push these reports to Wednesday and Friday at the same time.
Yeah.
And also the question is, will we go on only with the status reports, or we'll also have some calls at this time, stand-up little calls as we have with me Idento?
No, I think we'll, again, for the first sprint, let's just keep it with the status reports, ad hoc meetings and things. And let's just see how we go. I mean, if we need more meetings, we'll do it, and we'll see, basically.
Yeah, okay. I suspect for the first sprint and possibly for the first two, if we have too many meetings, we won't actually. We'll just be chatting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. No problem.
We're far better building stuff that's wrong and talking about it than trying to define what it is that we want.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So from my side, for example, what's concerned about planning, I don't have any questions now because it is much more clear for me. So what we have, let's summarize it in the end. We have 2 sprints. One is for Idento, one is for Pago. They're the same terms. Both of them are going to be started on the next Monday. Both of them are going to be ended on the 28th of January. We will have report meetings on Wednesday and Friday, and Alex and Max will also participate in it. And I think that we will close our sprint. I think that we will have, I'm not sure that we need an additional call on Monday, but in case we can have some questions, we can set up calls for Mondays of each of the week, for example. Just, Jonathan, it's up to you to decide. If you need some additional information, if you need something to discuss between the team, we can just create any call, but Monday will be our reserved time for this calls. I think it can be a good idea. Some sort of summarized calls or some sort of sprint ending calls. All of them will be performed on Monday. Frankly speaking, as I can see it now, we are finished with the planning phase. And if you have some other questions to discuss, we can go on. But that's all from my side. I just know all the information they need.
Yeah, so Ian, I want to have a quick chat with you about this open banking stuff.
Yeah, can I do it in about 20 or 30 minutes?
Yeah, you can do. I mean, basically, just to be clear, it's the open. I'm thinking about the open banking stuff and the interledger thing that we've got going on.
Yep, okay.
Because thinking about it, I think that's how we need to approach this. But let's have a discussion about it. There's no point involving anybody else because I might be going around this. We may decide not to do anything.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, great, cool.
Right.
So thank you very much, guys, for just taking the time. It was really productive, and we have a lot of work to do. So I will organize all the necessary stuff in the next time, and I will send you a link to this video so you can maybe rewatch it. And I'm just rewatch some of these videos from time to time in order to understand what I have missed because of maybe misunderstanding other stuff.
Yeah, but then we'll just discover we're completely inconsistent.
I will send you a link. You will watch it. You will like it.
We don't want evidence.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Right,
So
guys.
have a nice evening and see you next time.
Right, bye.
Thanks, man. Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
See ya. Bye.